877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I'm Clyde Lewis. Tonight on Ground Zero, we're exploring the electronics that may be haunted. You may have a few in your home. You may have had some experience, too. You may not share. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. More phone calls coming up on Ground Zero. Don't you dare go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Let's go to Robert in Arkansas. Hi, Robert. You're on Ground Zero.
Good morning, Clyde. This is a real interesting topic you got going today.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm a retired telecommunications technician of 32 years.
Okay.
And about 10 years ago, I was out on a service call. We got sent out on a service call to a chiropractor's office. And they were claiming that the phone, the key set on the phone system down in the basement in the break room was making ghost calls. And so anyways, I went out there, and they actually had a list of the phone numbers that had been called. And I looked in the system speed dial programming, and none of those numbers were in system speed dial, and there were no station speed dials programmed on the break room phone down in the basement. So I went downstairs to look at the phone, and I was going to pull it off the wall and start checking the jack for loose connections and then go back to the telephone system and check stuff back there. And I walked into the break room, and just as I was standing in front of the phone system, in front of the telephone on the wall, it went on speakerphone by itself. Line 3 lit up, and it dialed a local number. And the phone rang a number of times, and a person answered and said, hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Hello? Or something like that. And then it hung up. And I was out on that first call, and I swapped the phone out with another phone at another extension, and they called back and said it was doing it again. And I went out on 2 more service calls on that. And the second service call, I changed station ports on the phone system, so it was on a different station port. And the third service call I went out on, I replaced the station cable run, so it was on a new port on the phone system, a new station cable run, and a different phone, and it kept doing it, and we never were able to fix that. And all the phone numbers it dialed were 7 digits exactly. They were local prefixes. Didn't dial 5 digits, 6 digits, or 8, and it was always 7 digits, and it was always a local prefix only, and it would call a number and wait until the person answered and said hello a couple of times and hang up, and I saw it happen that one time.
And it wasn't on computer direction or anything, right?
No, it was one of the earlier digital phone systems, and it had no computer integration. It was not voice over IP. It was one of the early digital systems on 2-pair. It wasn't voice over IP on Ethernet or anything, and it just had a microprocessor.
So,
and the phone numbers
right.
that was dialing were not programmed in speed dial.
So we never saw, the phone speaker went on and you watched this happen. Did you see the buttons being pushed in, or was just the tones going over and it was calling?
No, it was just the tones going over and calling, and I saw the number come up on the display, and it like I said, the speakerphone button lit up, the hands-free button lit up, and then line 3 lit up. And then it dialed. I did not see the buttons getting pushed, just the functions happening. And then the person answered on the other end and said, hello, is anybody there? And then after they hung up, the phone went off speakerphone all by itself.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
And we never fixed it.
So did they finally just say, screw it, we don't need a phone there, or what happened?
No, they left. They knew what we did, that we ran new cable, changed ports, and swapped phones out. So it was completely new cable, run different phone, and a different port on the system, and it was only happening down in the basement in the break room.
How do you file a report on that? I mean, what exactly, what kind of paperwork goes into saying, oh, by the way, we've been trying to reroute things and put things in place, and each time the phone dials itself and it's dialing only local numbers, 7-digit local numbers, and we can't stop it. We don't know what's going on. I mean, what kind of paperwork, what kind of work report do you give to your company of that?
I wrote down on the work order tickets exactly what I did, and the owner knew what I did because he knew I swapped phones, and he knew I swapped station ports because it had a different extension number on it now. It was a different extension number for the break room, and he knew I ran a new cable down there. And he knew all what we did, and I told him what we did, and he had all the paperwork on it, and he was there when I was working it. So he knew what I did, and our office knew what I did. Our dispatcher knew what I did, and anyways, we ended up writing it up to a ghost.
Oh, my gosh. You didn't say it was a ghost, did you? You didn't say in the report that it was a ghost, did you, or did you?
Yeah, that's what I put down. We wrote.
Oh my God! Really?
I wrote it down on the third work order ticket. Must be a ghost or something like that. I wrote something about a ghost on the third work order ticket.
Robert, it's an amazing story. I've never heard anything like this. I mean, last time I heard a story like this was I had an operator who worked. She worked at the overseas operator, and she said she received a phone call that said no data sent on it. And when she picked it up, she was hearing this voice of an old woman, she said, that was speaking, and she spoke in a different language. And she didn't sound like she was from this planet. The voice sounded, she said, like it was coming through in some echo chamber. It sounded like it was kind of distorted and old, and there was a lot of static behind her voice. And it just sounded like somebody was making a phone call from the other side, trying to get through. And it said no data sent on. She kept asking, what's your name? What's your name? And she kept speaking to her in this language she never understood. And she thought it was some old European language or old Russian or something. But she said that the woman would not answer her question, just kept talking. And she said that it just sounded like it was a call from another time or calling from the past. And she said it was just too creepy. There was no number, no data sent. What's that?
Like a one-sided conversation?
Yeah, pretty much. It was like the call came in and it was just, she said hello, to the caller, and the caller said hello. But then the word was hello she used, and then she was saying, well, how can I help you? Well, the voice was in a language she doesn't understand. She was an overseas operator, so she handled certain languages. So language she didn't understand. She said there was a lot of static behind the call, a lot of scratching behind the call. The call, she said, sounded like it came from the future or it came from the past, and it was on equipment that was so old that it was hard to understand what she was saying. And when she looked at the number where it was coming from so she could find out if there was somebody who could interpret it, there was no number, so it was no data sent. She could not get the language, nor could she get anything because it sounded like it was coming from some old time. She said it sounded like it was coming off of Victrola.
Well, there's some. You were playing this clip earlier about these boyfriend and girlfriend on Skype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the reason he might not have heard it is you do know that all beginning with copper analog phone lines, pretty much all telecommunications, voice calls, even voice over IP, are duplex.
Okay.
And I've been on a lot of service calls where there was noise on the line. One person heard it, and the person on the other did not hear it because the calls are duplex. And if something gets in one direction of the conversation, one person can hear it and the other can't, and that might be why the girlfriend heard the little kid screaming and the boyfriend didn't hear it. And possibly what happened was there was another call going through Skype.
See, someone is saying, I thought about crosstalk too, but that's very hard to do. It's hard to try and detect where the crosstalk is coming from. And I think that's the problem they had. So once again, it's a mystery, but I'm sure it can be figured out. But your story is amazing. Thank you for calling. 877-733-1011. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Hey guys, it's Clyde, and I'm